There's a point in sport where the noise disappears. Not all at once, not dramatically, but it just fades. Early on, there's excitement. People ask how training is going. They notice changes. They encourage you. Progress is visible and effort is affirmed. But if you stay long enough, if you move past beginner phases and novelty, something shifts. The work keeps getting harder, but the audience gets smaller. And eventually you realize something uncomfortable. Most of the work that matters will never be seen by anyone else. You train early or late or alone. You structure your life around sessions no one understands. You turn down plans because tomorrow's training matters more, and explaining why starts to feel exhausting. Because to most people, this looks unnecessary. They see discomfort without reward, sacrifice without payoff, routine without excitement. They don't feel what you feel in your sport. So you stop explaining, and that's where loneliness enters. Not the dramatic kind, not isolation, but a quiet sense that you're walking a path most people won't follow and can't fully understand even if they try. In Olympic weightlifting, this is unavoidable. Progress takes years, returns are delayed, and the work is deeply repetitive. There's no variation for entertainment, no illusion of novelty, just the same movements over and over, with small adjustments that only matter to you. You learn quickly that this isn't something you can drag people along with. They either understand it or they don't, and most don't. That can feel alienating at first. You notice it when your schedule stops matching everyone else's, when your priorities shift quietly, when rest becomes intentional, not lazy. You're not better than anyone, but you're different. And difference creates distance. Sport doesn't warn you about that part. It doesn't tell you that commitment has a social cost because loneliness isn't a failure of the process, it's a consequence of depth. The deeper you go, the fewer people are willing or able to go with you. And at first, that hurts. You miss being understood effortlessly. You miss shared excitement. You miss the feeling of being on the same timeline as everyone else. But over time, something else happens. You begin to trust yourself more. When there's no applause, you learn to listen inward. When no one is watching, you find out how honest you really are. Loneliness forces clarity. You stop performing effort. You stop chasing approval. You stop needing training to be impressive. It becomes personal, private, necessary. You start training because you need it, not because anyone else expects it. And that changes the texture of the work. The gym becomes quieter, not just physically, but mentally. There's space to think, to reflect, to confront yourself without distraction. Some people can't tolerate that. They fill the silence with noise, with novelty, with constant change. Others learn to sit in it, and those are the ones who stay. Because loneliness, if you let it, becomes self reliance. You learn how to motivate yourself without hype, how to regulate your emotions without feedback, how to stay consistent when no one is checking. Those skills don't look impressive, but they're powerful and they follow you far beyond sport. Into work where no one notices effort, into relationships that require patience, in the phases of life where progress is invisible. You've already been there before. Sport trained you for quiet commitment. That's why people who've been in sport long enough often struggle to explain why it mattered so much. Because how do you describe something that happened mostly in silence? How do you explain the value of showing up when no one cared whether you did or not? You can't put that into numbers. You can't summarize it cleanly. You just carry it. But loneliness has another edge. This is one people don't like to talk about. It reveals who's really doing this for the right reasons. When progress slows and attention fades and excitement disappears, the people who remain aren't the most talented. They're the ones who've learned to be alone with the work. And that doesn't make them special, it makes them durable. And durability matters because sport doesn't just ask you to suffer, it asks you to suffer without witnesses, to care deeply without reassurance, to commit without company. That's not glamorous, but it's transformative. And if you stay long enough in that quiet space, sport eventually takes something else from you. It takes the version of you that needs performance to know who you are. Because when you've spent enough time alone with the work, identity starts to shift. And that's where this gets uncomfortable. In the next episode, we're going to talk about what happens when sport stops being something you do and starts being something you are, and what it costs when that identity begins to crack.